Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This time we're going to be talking about something new. We're going to talk a little bit about Star Wars Legion by Fantasy Flight Games, their newly announced miniatures war game. This was announced last week at Gencon, in case you haven't heard about it, and I will include a link to the little teaser trailer they did and some of the other stuff in the show notes. You can go check that out, see kind of what it's about. And there have been a couple of gameplay demos that have circulated since Gen Con. You can look those up too, get your info. But I kind of wanted to just get together and collect what the information we have as is right now on the game and kind of talk about it a little, because I'm actually pretty excited about this. This really is what I wanted out of a Star Wars tactical war game with, like, infantry and stuff. So I'm pretty interested in the rules to see where it goes. So let's jump on in there. So, based on what FFG has told us, Legion will be a 35mm scale game. That's a little bit larger than Imperial Assault. It will be objective-based, like Armada. And actually there's a lot of things that sound a lot like Armada. You'll see as we talk about it. The core set they're selling, which I believe is about $90 right now on pre-order, is going to be about 400 points a side, and the tournament scale will be 800 points a side, maximum. They're also putting a bit of a heavy emphasis on terrain. We know explicitly that there will be light and heavy cover, there will be difficult terrain rules, and terrain height rules related to the range ruler, which you might expect from FFG's materials. They have also said that the table scale will be 3x6, which I believe is also like Armada, and double that of X-Wing, same length as an X-Wing Epic table. So it's a pretty big scale, pretty big deal. The miniatures are plastic, they are not pre-assembled, but they're supposed to be fairly easy to snap and or glue together. A little bit better quality than you might expect from a lot of these miniatures. And they will be a plastic material, I believe similar to Imperial Assault, but again, I'm not sure. I don't play Imperial Assault. Like I said, the game will be objective-based. That'll affect setup and victory conditions and all that. It's supposed to be 7 turns, a lot like Armada again. And yeah, that's kind of the core here they're going for. There'll be different types of units, and we'll get to that in a second based on what we know. In general, gameplay will go with a kind of initiative token, and then that's used for tie-breaking and stuff. And there is a hand of command cards, some examples of which you can see on your screen now. Each command has a pip in the corner between 1 and 4, I believe they said is the maximum. And basically the way that works is when you start the turn, each side plays a face-down command card and then flips them over at the same time so everybody sees. And the number of dots is how quick it goes. So 1 goes first, 2 goes second, etc., etc. And then based on that command token and some randomization, there's a tie-breaking method. And basically, your command cards seem to be somewhat unique to your commanders, and they control how many units you activate for sure, and then other units you activate, you will take your command tokens, which correspond to that type of unit. Again, we'll cover the different types in a second with a different image. You randomize and put in a stack, and then you can either choose to activate a unit you know for sure you have picked that token and set it specifically on that unit to activate them. You can pick one of those, or you can randomly flip a token and activate that unit. Each unit has 2 actions around. You can shoot and move, and I believe they've said that you can only double move, so every other action has to be unique besides moving. And they have confirmed that there will be an aim action, which is similar to target locks in X-Wing. You can reroll a certain number of dice. And the dodge action, which is like the evade action in X-Wing, you can take a token and spend it to add a single, or cancel a single hit result, not add a block result. That's actually kind of important for some rules we'll get into a little later. So, quick tactical cards, or quick command cards rather, seem to activate only a small amount of units. Like, you can only tap like 1 or 2. Maybe specifically you can only tap 1 unit of a specific type, and then so many. So you have a lot more randomness, but you go quicker. And then multi-dot units have they affect more units, I should say. Like, for example, you can see this Assault, which has 3 units on there, so that would be 3 you can pick. Some of them seem to have special effects. We know that there is a standing orders command card, which is 4 dots, and it's a very limited number of units, but it returns to your hand, otherwise command cards are discarded. So no matter what, you can always play your standing orders card and get it back. And I think that's all we have about the basic mechanics. There's a range system, a movement system. There's a range tool, goes 1 to 4. There's a movement tool. Movement seems to go 1 to 3. The tool is adjustable, and there's some other cool stuff about movement I think we'll talk about in a second when we talk about the actual miniature cards. Obviously, we'll also talk about the different dice types, because that looks like a thing that's come out of Armada. And yeah, I think that's everything on that front. Let's really quickly look at those unit types. So now you can see a screen grab, I think, of somebody looking at the rulebook. We know that there's the various cards and stuff. We can tell at the moment there's only 2 factions, but there might be more because there's a rule about light or dark side on some of the upgrades, so we don't know if that's going to be a more definite thing later. There's the usual unique cards rule you expect from FFG's games. So if there's a card with a unique dot, either I assume upgrades or commanders, you can only have 1. And then we can see these rank icons there more prominently in the image. So you can have 1 to 2 commanders, who seem to be the big deals out of your unit. I think they let you pick your command cards as far as we know. Core units are your generic ones. That's 3 to 6 units. Those will be your regular rebel troopers, your regular stormtroopers. Hopefully there's a little bit of variety there, not just all the same generic guys, but we'll see. Then there's special forces, up to 3 special forces units, up to 3 support units, and then up to 2 heavy units. And heavy units are supposed to be the serious business stuff, like heavy vehicles. And special forces will be smaller, more elite stuff. I believe scout troopers were explicitly teased by some of the developers in various gameplay examples and demos they've done as special forces. So those are kind of the limits of your unit, what you can expect. The scale of this thing means probably you're not going to get AT-ATs, but there's definitely a wealth of vehicles appropriate for the scale, especially with how big the table is. The demo I watched was only on a 3x6, and that was still plenty of space for units out of the core box. The full 3x6, I mean, it was 3x3, I should say. I think I said it was 3x6. It was 3x3. Then the full table is 3x6, and some of the stuff you can see there really looks like you're going to have some room to do some stuff, and it's going to be really interesting. Alright, so let's look at the actual units, which have stat cards, as you might expect from FFG. We'll use Luke Skywalker here as an example, and you can see a lot of the stuff you might think familiar to your typical FFG miniatures card hybrid. On your top row, you've got your name. In this case, there's a unique dot. You can see the faction in the upper left corner. The point cost is just below that, I believe. Then on the far side, on the right, you can see the unit type, the little commander star. The number under that is how many miniatures go with it, so Luke obviously is just a singular miniature. And then there's a little picture so you know which one he is. Below that, it's a little blurry in this image, but there's a descriptor, which I believe says trooper in his case, and others will say vehicle or something like that. Depending on what they can do, this will come up in certain objectives and maybe some other rules and stuff. For example, we know that there is a objective type which is recover supplies. Only trooper units can take supply tokens, so vehicles can't step off and pick up boxes, but say a Luke could. The big center block is for abilities. You'll notice there are a lot of keyword type abilities with various numbers and stuff. From what I understand, this is all stacking if it's numbered, so Luke's jump 1 could become a jump 2, though the height of terrain is height on the range ruler, so terrain 1 is height 1 is very tall. Got that? And a lot of this will be familiar to you if you've played one of their Star Wars RPGs. There are a lot of keywords in there, which seem very familiar. So along the left-hand side, you see the familiar upgrade bar. The little star things we know are force power upgrades, so Luke can take a couple of those. And on the other side, under Trooper, the green number is wound threshold. When you take that number of wounds, the miniature is removed, or a miniature is removed. So, for instance, a Stormtrooper set normally comes with 4 miniatures, and they only have 1 wound threshold, so if they take 1 hit, you remove a miniature. The yellow number is courage. That's related to the suppression mechanics. I haven't seen them specifically, but what I've been told from people who have looked at this is that suppression is every time you take a hit, whether or not it's damage, but when you take a actual uncancelled hit that is not cancelled by cover or a dodge token or some effect, you take a suppression token. When you meet your courage value, you can only take 1 action, and then when you meet double your courage value, you can only take a move action as your 1 action, and it has to be towards the edge of the board to basically retreat. And then you go down by 1 suppression token in the end phase of every turn. So you want to be careful about your order here. You want to make sure you, try and get the drop on your enemy so you can suppress them first. The number next to those, or rather the die next to those, is the defense die. They come in white or red varieties. Red is better than white. And you roll 1 defense die per hit against you opportunity. Now, below that is their conversion chart. On these dice, both on defense and offense dice, there's that little icon with a slash through it. That's called Surge. And I believe that's something they have in Imperial Assault. And basically, the conversion chart tells you that when you roll a Surge, that's what you change it to. So in Luke's case, if you roll a Surge on attack dice, that's always the top. The top is always what you do with attack dice. You will change it to a crit. So that's pretty good. And the bottom section, in this case, is blanked out. That would be for defensive abilities or conversion. And if it's blanked out, that means you turn Surges to blanks. And below that, the 3 red zones, however many of those are shaded in, is your speed per move. So Luke has a speed 2. He can move a maximum of 2 speed per move. There's a such thing in this system as compulsory movement. We know that speeder bikes have it. They have to take a full speed move when they activate, but they do so for free. So they can't sit still well, but they can move around fast. And then the bottom tier is all weapons. So you can see the name of the attack or the name of the weapon. There's a little range icon next to it. Anakin's lightsaber has a red icon which indicates melee, which has to be base-to-base contact. And then the blaster pistol has a range of 1 to 2, so anything within range 1 to 2. And the way this works is that white dice are worse than black dice are worse than red dice. So Anakin's lightsaber is not the best kind of dice, but it's a lot of dice, and it has certain special abilities. Impact, we know, is related to armor. Certain heavy vehicles have an ability called Armor, which prevents them from taking regular damage from hits, only from crits. Impact lets you change hits to crits. Critical hits, the empty face icon, do nothing unless otherwise specified by a mechanic. There's no crit deck like X-Wing, and possibly like Armada. There's no special damage. It's all dependent on what abilities you have. And Pierce ignores blocks. So basically, if Luke rolls 2 hits, he's always getting 2 hits through. Got that? And I think that's all there is besides very specific instances of what you can see. Oh, and you can see that little upside-down triangle thing. That is a block icon. So Luke has a special ability to turn his defensive surge into blocks. I think that's about all there is to it about our underlying upgrade cards. It's pretty simple to understand once you see it, and especially if you see it in action. So now let's take a look at the example of upgrade cards really quick. They're pretty simple. They got a name. They have the usual italics, like restrictions. So, for instance, Stormtrooper is Stormtroopers only. And that says add 1 Stormtrooper mini. It's got an icon, and then it has a squad point cost. And this, other than that, that gives me a good opportunity to talk about a couple things I missed. One is, obviously, you can add more units to your system, and that can affect how many hits you can take before you go out with a squad. I believe that the 2 icons are separate, so you should theoretically be able to bump regular trooper infantry, regular core units, up 1 like heavy unit, because there's a rotary blaster rebel trooper, or there's a heavy blaster stormtrooper, and then there's just add a generic mini at the cost of, say, 11 points in this case. So there's that. And talking about the command phase, you can only be issued orders if you are in range of the nominated commander. So that's the thing. You have to be within the range ruler of your commander who's starting a command, such as Darth Vader. You can have between 1 and 2 commanders, so that means you might be able to spread your units out a little, unless you have a long-range comlink, obviously. That little comlink upgrade I've only seen on vehicles, so that makes sense that they need special units to, like, talk back and forth. But this brings up an important other thing, talking about movement. When you move, you can move anywhere along up to your maximum range, which is really good. More importantly, you only move the squad leader, and then you do what is called bringing in formation or bringing in coordination or whatever. Alex Davies, the head developer, had a special word for it, which I'm sure we'll cover. But basically, you need to keep everybody in quote-unquote formation. You just take that commander, put him wherever you need to on your range ruler, or your movement tool, rather, and then pick up everybody else and scoot him around in the general area of range 1 of that guy. And then that can determine your cover, and you don't need to do, like, individual squad movement. You just pick up one mini, you move him, you put everybody else in close proximity to him. And if you're double moving, you don't have to move them right away. You can move once, and then decide where your second move goes, and then put everybody in position around your commander. Your squad leader, I should say. Now, that's really neat. That's one of the things that really appeals to me about this game, besides just the tactical back and forth, and I like a lot of the scale and what I'm seeing about the options. You hear me? Like, that was really appealing to me as what I literally wanted out of a Star Wars infantry miniatures game by FFG, was you don't need to keep track of all your individual units when moving and stuff. You just pick up your lead guy, who's usually got, like, a special mini, like he's got a shoulder pad or binoculars or something. Macro binoculars, technically speaking, I'm sure. But anyway, that's a key point, I think, and so far we've seen a little bit of variety in the various upgrades. Like, the Rebel AT-RT has an obvious analog to the Hardpoint upgrade from Star Wars X-Wing Epic, where it can pick a couple of different weapons. Like, it can pick just a generic rotary cannon, or it can have, like, a heavy laser cannon for anti-vehicle work, stuff like that. There's force powers, obviously, for force user units. There are some generic gear and comlinky type upgrades, and there are unit upgrades, and I will be really interested to see what the full upgrade list is when this thing actually comes out. So that's about all we know about Legion. Sorry if my information is a little scattered, but obviously I'm working from gathering up together multiple sources on this thing, because they haven't hit us with, like, full preview articles. There's obviously FFG's website to look for future news articles, and they have a little, like, cover website, and we'll see. Hopefully there'll be a wiki soon like there is for X-Wing and Armada, but obviously that will also require hard and fast information and official images. As I said, the core set looks to be about, let's see here, I can look it up right now, actually. Yep, it's about $90, and that'll get you 400 points aside, get you started. The core set should be released early 2018. That's a little long from now, but obviously FFG needs to, work through its bugs and stuff, get its pre-orders and its marketing out there. Who knows what else will hit with the core set? Hopefully some new stuff. Developers have basically confirmed that there will be snowspeeders, so there's going to be some kind of flying units. There will be AT-STs. There will be scout troopers. I assume that we'll eventually get other prominent stuff from both the original trilogy and then concurrent stuff like Rebels and Rogue One. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of Rebel characters, maybe some associate generic units, some vehicles of that vein, that sort of thing. I'm kind of interested to see how big they push the vehicles, you know what I mean? But we'll see. I'm really excited. I hope you guys are excited. And yeah, that's basically what we got. Obviously, because I'm so excited, I'm probably going to keep doing this more. I'm going to start doing more regular videos on previews and news and stuff, just like I do with X-Wing. And if you want to see more, be sure and subscribe. If you like the video, give it a like. That helps me know that, you actually liked it and you want me to do more of them. And leave your comments, how you feel about Legion, if you have any more information about anything in specific that I missed. Because obviously I didn't go to Gencon 50, so I didn't have it explained to me. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.